Hello and happy Sunday. You guys get a Sunday meditation from me. I don't like to preach sermons. I'm not a pastor, but when I have something to say that I find pretty profound and useful to others, I'm going to say it. So you guys get a message from me today. This morning's meditation has been on the tree of life. That's just where my spirit was drawn. I have a lot of very deep healing to do that I will find in that meditation, but fortunately, you don't get to hear about all the gory details. I will spare you. But meditating on the tree of life, I must also ponder the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve were driven out of the garden and forfeited their access to the tree of life as they chose the dualistic, vicious cycle of good and evil. And we have not abandoned that at all as a culture. We are constantly analyzing ourselves. Are my actions or my thoughts, are they good? Are they evil? Are my behaviors good? Are they acceptable? And, we do a lot of navel gazing, and like Adam and Eve, we want to cover ourselves up in shame for fear of being exposed. We're so afraid just to live life as God intended. See, God never intended for us to struggle with the burden of the legalistic approach to sin and good and evil. It was never supposed to be ours to bear. You can literally create for yourself a living hell caught in that duality. When I died suspended between the two. I'm never going to be perfectly good. There's reasons for it. God has told me, and I hate him for it, but he's the God, and he gets to run things I don't. And I am not going to let myself slip into base animal evil either. I'm caught somewhere between the two, and it's a living hell. Relief comes in when we understand that God intended for us to live life, and so I no longer think in terms of good and evil, rather I think in terms of life. Life is life is life is life, and it begets a continual abundant life. Excuse me. You can read some of those thoughts in a book that I wrote a while back. If you really want to read the book, it's just a bunch of scribblings of a madman, but let me know, I can find a copy for you. But I think in terms of life, and I think in terms of what is inhibiting of life. Not good or evil, but what inhibits life. I love life, and life is eternal. It's never ending. Life always renews every day. Let's talk about good and evil. And these are judgments that we make because we think we have that divine knowledge of good and evil. It has been a scourge on our world ever since. And we have turned against each other. We are at war with each other. We're constantly attacking each other because we ate of this tree. It's no wonder Satan thought to sabotage mankind. It's the perfect sabotage. Teaching us good and evil, enabling us to be the gods, and now you have 8 billion gods in the world. It's a mess. When we decide that we are the arbiters and the deciders of good and evil. I have a scientific fact to share with you. Your voice sounds different to you than it sounds to other people. Did you know that? And when you record your voice and you play it back to yourself, you say, wow, I didn't know I sounded like that. But it's what other people hear all the time. It's also your appearance, your image, the way you look. I can sometimes look at myself in the mirror and think, oh my God, I'm fucking hideous. I'm a gargoyle. What the hell's wrong with me? Just catch certain sides. People have a photogenic side or whatever. But it's what other people see all the time, and they just accept it as normal as you, and they don't give it a second thought. But I will look at myself and say, oh my god, I'm hideous. What the hell's I'm a gargoyle. It's about perception. It's about who's observing you. I'd like to call attention to one of my all-time favorite TV classics called Lost. A lot of my followers have probably watched it at least once in a lifetime. If you haven't, I'll fill you in a little bit. On the plot line, on the storyline, you have a plane crash on a mysterious island, and the survivors come from all walks of life. And in their adventures on the island, they see some rather disturbing things, like a mysterious smoke monster that kills seemingly at random and arbitrarily. And then they run into, quote-unquote, others on the island, and they were the original inhabitants. They've been there for a long time. Now, the way the show plays out, we are kind of presuming that these others are bad people. That these others are something to be feared, that they're the enemy, or they're the villains, so to speak. For the first few seasons, it plays out that way. And then you look into the storyline of each of the main characters. You find out they're terrible people. You've got somebody that America would consider a terrorist, as he was a part of the Republican Guard in Iraq, and, fought those wars, and he was a torturer, interrogator. You have a hitman, working on a goon squad for a loan shark. You've got adulteress, you've got con artists, you've got murderers, you've got thieves, just terrible people, each with a backstory. But here's the thing. You kind of fall in love with these characters because you understand their backstory. You know why they are the way they are. And we just assume that they're the good guys and that these others on the island are the bad guys. But I'm going to be honest with you, as I watch the show, if I were one of these others on the island, I would treat these people exactly the way I did, because they are terrible people. The everyday walk of life, we see these people on the news, like all the, extortionists, and like, God, these are just bad, terrible, horrible, evil people, but we know their backstories. But this is the inner dialogue that we have with ourselves. Well, I do what I do because of this. We rationalize it away. We make excuses, or we have very good legitimate reasons for doing what we did. What else could we have possibly done? And so we are our own favorite character, and as we go through life, we automatically assume we're the good guy, and anybody who challenges us or anybody who crosses us is obviously the villain. Well, they're bad, they're evil. And then we have this little shit show that we're playing with, on social media. Or Trump is bad, he's evil. Or Biden is bad, he's evil. Or this guy's bad, or that guy's bad. It's the usual mudslinging that we like to do. Attacking everybody. It's actually really pitiful and sad. But that's where we are as a society. And that's how we act. Everybody else is bad but me. Because I have a perfectly good reason for being why I am. The way I am. I have a perfectly good justification, and I can rationalize it, and I'm not accountable to anybody but me. That's the human condition. But we judge everybody else, good and evil. And that's the malady we live in. We decided we're the God. We want to be just like God and knowing good and evil. And being the arbiter of it, we decide, we judge other people. Well, they're bad because of this, but I can't possibly be bad because I have this reason and that reason. Turns out, you may not necessarily be the good guy. Turns out, you may actually be the villain, and the way other people see you isn't the way you see you. Other people could say, oh my God, you are a terrible dude. I took a look at my life from an outsider's perspective. And I don't I don't recommend the faint of heart do this, because you're in for a very terrible awakening. And I look at my life and my actions and my behavior, and I'm like, holy shit, I am a bad dude. There is so much wrong with me. I am seriously fucked up. I'm not a good guy. I think that's in the Bible. All have sinned and fallen short. And we are all slated for condemnation. Who knew the Bible's right? I have every reason to believe I'm a terrible person. And I think C.S. Lewis once said, if somebody says I'm such a bad man, I say, oh, I'm far worse than you think I am. Oh, yes, I'm far worse. Then you're on the right path. I have come to embrace this enlightening and startling revelation that I am not as good as I think I am. And you have to have balls, you have to have spine, you have to have courage to face that reality. And that's why the best therapy I have ever gotten taught me what's called radical acceptance. I accept everything about me without judging. There's one tradition, more mystical tradition, that the angel or archangel Metatron is in heaven. He is sitting at the right hand of God. He is the main angel. He is the top angel. He is a scribe, and he writes down literally every single thing you ever did or said. Objectively. There's no commentary, there's no rationalizing, there's no excuses, just facts. Like, it's just all being recorded. No judgment. Just every little thing you did. And when you get to Judgment Day, you're going to see those books. Every little detail about your life. You did this, you did that, you did this. How do you plea? It's a very sobering and humbling thought. I'm not as good as I think I am. One tradition in the religion, the Jewish religion, is that there was a war in heaven, and the dispute was over whether mankind should be created or not. Some of the angels rebelled. Some of the angels absolutely hate you. They hate that you exist and that you have God's favor and that you have God's mercy. They hate you. They want you destroyed. That's why the misnomer angel Lucifer rebelled in heaven and took the other angels with him. Those who sided with him said humans should not exist. We're going to rebel against God. It's said that Michael the archangel agreed that we should not exist. However, he decided to remain obedient to God. And that's why Michael threw Satan out of heaven. Satan constantly runs around this world, constantly accusing us. And I see it in politics all the time. I see it in especially communism, or this leftist, and I don't want to get into politics here, I'm just using this as an illustration and something relevant to our culture, constantly accusing every little thing you do. Oh, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you did that bad. You're bad for this, you're bad for that, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, you're this for that. And they're vicious, they're very brutal. And that's why I believe that this movement that we are facing in our country is satanic. And I'm not saying they're the only people that do this, but I'm just saying they're the loud, obnoxious ones right now in our culture. Constantly pointing the finger, constantly attacking, constantly telling us how bad we are and evil we are. Unfortunately, these satanic angels are correct on a fact basis. They're not lying, they're telling the truth. This is where the Christian gospel comes in. We are slated for condemnation. There's no way out of it. We deserve it, and I agree we deserve it. I am a terrible person. I really do suck. I would not want to be my friend. I would not want to love me. I really wouldn't. We can list all the terrible things that I am. If I was to see my story, like a story about me in the news, and I was another person that didn't know me, I'd say, oh my God, that guy's an asshole. He deserves jail or whatever. Here's where the Christian gospel comes in. Jesus sits down at the right hand of God, and he's constantly making amends and defenses for us, atonement for us, constantly arguing on our behalf. And he bought us. He purchased us with his life, so he has a right to us. We are slaves because he purchased us. And those naysayer angels, or even the humans that they influence here on earth, don't get claim to us. And they hate that. And in that purchase, he purchased us for freedom. And we are now adopted into God's family. and now they really hate us. And the war has not ended, it's only getting worse. I keep all this in mind as I go about my life, as I stop judging people. Because now I understand what's at stake. This person is a terrible, horrible person. But I promise you, I'm far worse. But the person that I'm judging has a backstory. The person that I'm judging understands himself and has a perfectly good rationalization or reason for being what he is. And he's not going to change just because I don't like him. I can take a hard look at myself and I can say, dear God, I'm a sinner. I deserve condemnation. I accept the invitation to be purchased as a slave and then adopted into God's family. That's what I got. Go in peace, be blessed, until I have something profound to say next time.